If you read the Bible from page 1, you get a very clear story. God creates the world. Adam and Eve sin. Cain kills Abel. People start having families. It is a grounded human drama. And then, out of nowhere, you hit Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. And suddenly, you feel like you walked into the wrong movie. You walked out of a historical drama and into the Lord of the Rings. The verse says, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." Wait, who? Nephilim. The King James Bible translates this word as giants. The text says that sons of God, divine beings, came down, had sex with human women, and produced a race of hybrid super warriors who dominated the ancient world. This passage is only 4 verses long, but it is arguably the most controversial, frightening, and censored story in the entire Judeo-Christian tradition. It suggests that the Great Flood of Noah wasn't just about rain. It was a cosmic ethnic cleansing designed to wipe out a hybrid species that was corrupting human DNA. For centuries, the church tried to bury this story. They said, no, sons of God just means the good lineage of Seth, and daughters of men means the bad lineage of Cain. They tried to make it boring. But the ancient writers and the authors of the banned Book of Enoch told a very different story. They told a story of fallen angels, forbidden technology, and genetic manipulation. Today, we are going to open the X-Files of the Bible. We are going to look at the linguistic roots of the fallen ones, read the banned texts found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and analyze the archaeology of giant skeletons to answer the question, who or what were the Nephilim? Let's look at the text itself. The story serves as the prequel to the flood, when human beings began to increase in number on the earth. The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. There are 3 characters here. The sons of God, Bene Elohim, in the Old Testament, like Job 1-6. This phrase always refers to angels or divine beings in God's council. It never refers to normal humans. The daughters of men, Beneth Adam. This refers to female humans. The offspring Nephilim, the result of this union. The Hebrew word Nephilim comes from the root nephil, which means to fall. So, Nephilim literally means the fallen ones, or those who cause others to fall. But when the ancient Greek translators, the Septuagint, translated this word around 200 BC, they didn't write fallen ones. They wrote gigantes, giants. Why? Because in Greek mythology, the gigantes were the offspring of the sky god, Uranus, and the earth goddess, Gaia. They were titans half god, half earth beings who rebelled against Olympus. The ancient translators looked at Genesis 6 and said, "Oh, I know this story. This is the Titanomachy." This interpretation suggests that the pre-flood world wasn't just filled with bad people. It was filled with monsters. It helps explain why God sent the flood. If God just wanted to kill sinners, a plague would have worked. But if the human genome itself was being corrupted, if there was a hybrid species running around, God had to wash the earth clean. He had to hit the reset button to save humanity. Noah was chosen not just because he was righteous, but because, as Genesis 6-9 says, he was blameless in his generations. Some scholars argue this means his DNA was pure. He was 100% human. If Genesis gives us the summary, the Book of Enoch gives us the gory details. The Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish text quoted in the New Testament Book of Jude that claims to be written by Noah's great-grandfather. It was hugely popular in Jesus' time, but was later kicked out of the biblical canon. Why? Because it is crazy. It tells the full story of the sons of God. It calls them the Watchers, Gregory, according to Enoch. 200 angels, led by a figure named Semyaza, descended on Mount Hermon. They made a pact to defy God and take human wives. They taught humans forbidden technology. Azazel taught men how to make swords, knives, and shields, warfare. They taught women how to use makeup and mirrors, seduction. They taught sorcery, root cutting, drugs, and astrology. The women gave birth to the NEPHILIM. Enoch describes the NEPHILIM as massive, insatiable giants, 3,000 ells tall, which is hyperbole, but you get the point. They ate all the food. Then they started eating the animals. Then they started eating the humans, cannibalism. And finally, they started drinking blood. The earth screamed out to God. This text changes the genre of the Bible. It turns the Old Testament into a cosmic war. Humans aren't just sinners. They are victims of a hostile spiritual invasion. The Watchers introduced technology and violence to a primitive world, accelerating civilization but dooming it to destruction. Interestingly, this mirrors ancient Mesopotamian myths, like the Apkallu. In Sumerian myth, 7 sages Apkallu came from the sea to teach human civilization. The Bible takes that myth and flips it. It says, yes, beings came down and taught us technology, but they weren't good sages. They were rebels, and their technology destroyed us. So the flood happens, the Nephilim drown. End of story, right? Wrong. Genesis 6-4 has a terrifying clause. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. This implies the gene survived, or the event happened again. When Moses leads the Israelites to the Promised Land, Numbers 13, he sends 12 spies to scout the land of Canaan. The spies come back terrified. They report, "We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." The spies claim that the land is filled with Anakim, a clan of giants. This explains the brutality of the conquest of Canaan. God orders Joshua to wipe out certain clans completely. Why? If you accept the Nephilim theory, it's because those clans carried the giant gene. It was a genetic cleanup operation. This culminates in the most famous story of all, David and Goliath. Goliath of Gath. The Bible says he was 6 cubits and a span, approx. 9 feet 9 inches or 2.97 meters. He's described as wearing bronze armor that weighed 125 pounds. His spear shaft was like a weaver's beam. And Goliath wasn't alone. 2 Samuel 21 mentions that Goliath had 4 brothers or relatives, all giants, who also had genetic anomalies like 6 fingers and 6 toes, polydactyly. There was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. 2 Samuel 21:20. The presence of 6 digits is a classic sign of genetic mutation. It lends credence to the idea that these weren't just tall guys, like NBA players, but a distinct biological lineage with specific traits. Now, we have to look at the other side. Many modern scholars and theologians are uncomfortable with the angel sex theory. It feels too mythological. It raises biological questions. Do angels have DNA? So, they propose the divine kingship theory. In the ancient world, kings often claimed to be gods or sons of God. The pharaoh was the son of Ra. The Sumerian kings claimed divine descent. This theory argues that Genesis 6 is a political polemic. Sons of God equals power-hungry aristocrats, kings from the line of Cain. Daughters of men equals common peasant women. Nephilim equals the result of these kings building harems and acting like tyrants. The word Nephilim might not mean giant in terms of height, but giant in terms of status. Big men, warlords, bullies. The text calls them Gibram, mighty men, heroes of old. This view argues that the sign wasn't genetic mixing. It was polygamy and violence. It was the rich and powerful taking whatever women they wanted, like Lamech in Genesis 4. and breeding a class of violent warrior princes. This theory fits the historical context of the Bronze Age, where warlord kings dominated society. But it fails to explain why the ancient translators used the word giants, gigantes, or why the spies felt like grasshoppers. You don't feel like a grasshopper standing next to a rich guy. We cannot discuss this topic without addressing the History Channel elephant in the room: ancient aliens. This show and authors like Zecharia Sitchin took the Nephilim story and gave it a sci-fi skin. They argue Watchers equals extraterrestrials, Anunnaki. Mount Hermon equals a landing site. Nephilim equals human-alien hybrids. They argue that the Forbidden's technology, metallurgy, astronomy, was actual alien tech given to early humans. While actual archaeologists reject this, humans are perfectly capable of inventing things on their own. It shows the enduring power of the story. Whether you call them fallen angels or aliens, the core narrative is the same. Non-human intelligence interfered with human evolution. Genesis 6 is the original First Contact story. And it says, First Contact was a disaster. So, who were the Nephilim? Were they 20-foot monsters? Were they alien hybrids? Or were they just really tall, really mean kings? The text leaves it deliberately ambiguous. But the legacy of the Nephilim is clear. They represent the ultimate transgression of boundaries. Heaven and earth are supposed to be separate. Angels and humans are supposed to be separate. When those boundaries are crossed, when the divine mixes with the mortal, it creates chaos. It creates monsters. The story of the Nephilim is a warning about technology and power. The Watchers gave humans knowledge they weren't ready for, weapons, sorcery. And the result was a world so violent that it had to be washed away. In our modern age of genetic engineering, AI, and transhumanism, the story of Genesis 6 feels uncomfortably relevant. We are once again trying to upgrade humanity. We are once again trying to become like the gods. And if history or myth is any guide, there might be giants waiting for us at the end of that road. What do you think? Were the Nephilim supernatural giants or just human tyrants? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the strangest corners of the Bible fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that uncovers the real stories behind our beliefs. Thanks for watching.